Have you ever wondered if it was actually the right time to sleep with him? What if I told you there is a best time to sleep with a guy, but it has nothing to do with time at all? If that makes no sense to you, don't worry. On today's show, we're going to be discussing when is the best time to sleep with him. That way you never again make the mistake of giving yourself to a man before he's earned that from you. Let's get started with number one. This is a very important concept to understand. This is the thing about time. People will be advising you on the best time to sleep with men. Here's kind of the mistake though that happens when it comes to when is the best time to actually allow this really important and pivotal part of your relationship to happen. People will tell you things like, hey, if you really want a guy to like you, if you really want him to appreciate you, and if you want your relationship to go perfect, the amount of time you should take is about 90 days. So you got to mark 90 days off on your calendar before you eventually get to the place where you will allow him to have you. And that should be the thing that you're looking forward to. That should be the timeline you set in place for yourself. This 90-day rule. In theory, it sounds like it'll make perfect sense and it'll do you really good and you'll get everything that you need out of this 90-day rule. What ends up happening though, each and every day is passing. However, your growth in understanding and comprehension of the human being that you're eventually going to allow to penetrate himself inside of you is not necessarily growing as each and every one of these days is passing. Let's just say, for the sake of example, you go out on a date with him on this day. So on this day, you're able to get to know him and see him, spend some time with him, ask him some questions, get an understanding of who he really is as a human being. Your understanding of him is actually growing. But let's say you guys don't go on a date for another, let's just say 1 week. So this is the next date. And this is the next time you get to spend with him and see him again, to get to know him, grow in your understanding of him, and grow in your bond and closeness in this relationship. Out of the 7 days that you are qualifying in your 90-day rule, only 2 of those days have you actually grown in your understanding of who this guy is as a person. And remember, when you're thinking about the best time to sleep with him, it's not just about thinking to yourself, oh, how will I get him to like me and invest in me and actually want to be with me? It's also about understanding the person that I'm going to allow to sleep with me and the person that I'm going to allow into my soul and my spirit and my body. Do I actually know and can verify who they are as a person, what they're about, what they're here for, what their approach is, what they believe in? Because if I can't verify who you are as a person, then I can't let you inside of me, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Well, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to be going by an arbitrary rule of 90 days when in those 90 days, only some of those days will you actually be growing in your understanding of the other human being. This kind of doesn't work in actual practicality. Because unless you're able to spend 24 hours a day with this guy every single one of these days, there's no way to actually ensure that throughout this 90 days that you're ever going to be able to spend enough time with him to actually grow in your understanding of him in this relationship. Now, let's look at what I want you to be restructuring your brain. You obviously start off as strangers. You eventually want to get to a place where, let's obviously assume eventually you want to be his wife and things like that and be his fiance, assuming you want to get married. But let's keep it simple just for now. And we'll say that you want him to ask you to be his girlfriend. Instead of thinking to yourself, there has to be a amount of days that pass in order for me to get to this end goal, I want you to instead start thinking to yourself, there has to be key events that happen in order for me to reach this goal. I want you thinking events. Now, why do I want you thinking about events? Because this can ensure that regardless of the amount of time or the consistency in which you're seeing this guy, You will always be able to hit particular milestones that will better equip you to make a good decision about whether or not you want this guy to be allowed inside of you. This rule or this idea or this concept of making him wait is not just about making him wait so he'll like you more. It's about making him and you wait so that you can ensure that the person you're actually sleeping with is really who they tell you they are, and that you don't end up realizing if he is someone different than he said he is after you end up sleeping with him. That's going to make you feel sad. That's going to make you feel shame. That's going to make you feel like an idiot. And that's going to put you in our Discord telling me a tragic story that you want to undo. I don't want that for you. I want you to get it right the first time. But in order for you to get it right the first time, we have to be honest about a couple of things. One is that men will lie to you. I don't make the rules, but I can explain them to you. And the reality of it is men will lie and deceive you about who they are, what they're about, and what their intentions are in order to extract something from you. So if you don't approach your dates with that understanding that men are capable of lying to you, and a lot of them will in the process of dating you, then you will be in a very bad place. What we need to do is ensure that just because a guy tells you nice things and he seems nice, he's got nice straight teeth, we don't get mesmerized by any of those things and make an assumption that we know that person just because we spend one date with him per week, and then we go on another date with him next week, and then we say, well, 90 days has passed. So just because 90 days has passed, even though I haven't really gone on dates with him and got to know him better in those 90 days, I've just checked them off the calendar, so I'll assume everything is A-okay. Let's hop into point number 2 here. This is a part of relationships and building with men that must happen. See, when you meet guys on the first date, you're gonna have him here and you're gonna be with him. And this is the thing. See, when you're with him and you're observing him, you might think to yourself, wow, this is a really good guy. I put the halo on top of his head because he's like an angel. And I'm getting to know him and I'm realizing he's literally exactly what I've been looking for. So charming, so nice, pulls out my chair. He really, really pays attention to me, and I really, really like a guy like this. But here's the thing. Meeting friends can do something very, very interesting to you and this guy. When you have friends around, something very interesting can happen. Instead of you seeing him as this really amazing good guy, you now realize something very different. You realize, after spending some time with him, that he's actually not the good guy that you thought he was. Instead, you realize when you meet him around his friends that he's actually a pretty bad guy. Now, how does this really work? See, when you're with a guy and it's just you and him, remember, you don't meet people in a vacuum or in isolation. Meaning, when you meet someone for the first time, they didn't start existing when you met them. People will also, that are selling you a dream, will like to get you to believe in that idea, that they fell from the sky and they've never experienced or done anything until they finally met you. That's when their life started. The reality of it is, he has been a whole person with dreams, aspirations, perspectives, situations, and circumstances since before he ever met you. But when they first meet you, it's very easy to present themselves as whoever they want to present themselves as. But remember, in this situation, you're thinking about when is the best time to sleep with him. If you're void of the information of who he really is outside of the experience that you have with him for this short period of time, and you make a decision to sleep with him without getting the extra context, then you'll be making a horrible decision because you'll be making a misinformed decision. When you surround yourself with him and his friends, you get a better context of how he talks, how he interacts with people, and what he's more regularly like. When you hop and you join a friend group that's already existing, you're the new member here, okay? So you're the new person. You're the new energy. This already existing group has its own group personality, its own group themes, its own group inside jokes, its own group way of talking and discussing. When he falls back into his group, he'll tend to default into whatever the group ideas, discussions, and way of thinking is, because this is his group of people. This is good for you though, because this is extra context and information to understand what do you actually like outside of my experience with you. So what you must do is extract that information indirectly. And this piece of information is going to come by spending some time with his close friends. I want you, whether you bring your own friend along to make it easier or more comfortable, or you just go by yourself, I want you to go out with him and his friends and see what it's like. See how he talks to them. See how he jokes with them, okay? Because their jokes and their banter is going to tell you a lot about how they speak about women, what they think about women, how they go about their relationships. For example, let's say you go out with this guy and his friends. And this guy's talking about when a girl's around, they might soften up the way that they talk. But the thing about it is, if you listen closely enough, you'll actually understand what they're really saying. Some guys in their friend group, when girls are around, they'll talk in code. But if you really understand what's going on, you'll see through the code. It's not that hard. So let me explain to you an example. Some guys in the friend group might be bad guys. They might be cheaters. So when you go out with him in his friend group, he might be talking about, oh, make sure you don't post me on your story. I don't want Lily to see that. Or you might hear one of the friends say, bro, she's calling me. Then let me. And these are the type of things you want to pick up on. His friend is speaking in code to him, the guy that you like, and kind of expressing to him, oh yeah, you know my situation. I'm out. I'm not supposed to be out. My girl doesn't know I'm here. My girl doesn't know I'm here. My girl doesn't know what I'm doing. Hey, you know how we do. We keep this stuff a secret, okay? If you start getting a hint of this and you start hearing how these guys are very secretive, they all seem to have girlfriends, but they're all out right now without those girls or women in their life knowing about that. Well, think to yourself logically. If all of these friends seem to have a situation going on and an understanding between them, think to yourself logically. Do you think if you go out with him and all of his friends, and all of his friends are talking about, hey, don't tell my girl that I'm out here doing this right now, do you think it's likely or unlikely that he would also participate in that same behavior? Is a little pro tip for those of you who really want to get real information. When you get around these friends, I want you to be like one of the guys. I want you to talk as if you don't give a damn, okay? As if you don't care. It doesn't bother you what they do. Hey, you're not dating them, so you're not judging anything that they do. Let's hop into number 3. Family. Very, very important. Family is an important part of understanding the guy that you're dating. I know when I start talking about family, some of you are saying, Tomisin, it's 2025. You know, we don't live in the Stone Age anymore. I'm not religious. I'm not even going to be needing to meet a guy's family before I sleep with. Like, that's so extra. Like, I'm going to meet his mom and dad. I'm not at all comfortable with that. I have anxiety doing that. If you think to yourself, and you're hearing me talk about family, and then you're hearing me talk about when the right time to sleep with them, and I'm saying you got to meet his family, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I would feel uncomfortable meeting his family. Bingo. If you feel uncomfortable meeting his family, would you be participating in an act that could cause you to have a baby with this man? If meeting his mom and dad makes you feel uncomfortable. So we're already establishing that the order of operations are wrong if you're telling me how uncomfortable you would feel meeting his family, but then you're not uncomfortable actually allowing him to penetrate himself inside of you and create life. Here's the really important part of this. Because what you want to do here is you want to allow these people, all of these people, to do something very, very interesting for you. They're all going to give you their own understanding of the human being that you are dating, which is your guy. Your guy is here, and they're all gonna paint you a picture of what this guy is like, because they're gonna tell you about who he's been since he was a child. They're gonna tell you about their experiences with him in life and who they understand him to be on a more personal level. This is great, great information for you, because here, with this amount of information from people that have known him essentially all of his life or all of their own lives if they're younger siblings. These are people that find it very difficult to be dishonest about the person who he is. And these are people who are experts in their understanding of this human being because they know the patterns that he has, they know the qualities that he portrays, they know what they see him like on a back end sense behind all the dressing things up, behind all the extravagance, behind all the lies, behind all of the other stuff. This is a great way to gain in your context and gain a whole lot of information and understanding of who the real person is. Now, I'm not saying that you should be pushing to meet his family as soon as you meet him, but what I'm saying is when we're thinking about the events that you want to be looking forward to before you actually say, okay, now's the right time to sleep with him, this is one of the events. And you want to at least target one of these close family members to say, okay, I want to have a conversation, even in a casual sense, with one of these family members and just see how they interact with me. See how they respond or they talk about this guy. See if I can bring up some topics that they hesitate on. Sometimes with family, what you're going to find is they'll find it very difficult to lie, number one, about the person that you're dating, especially if it's their family member. But number two, sometimes they'll just flat out tell you, I wouldn't advise you to date my brother, or I wouldn't advise you to date my son. Some moms will even tell you, I don't know what he possessed you with, but you're way out of his league. Family members end up being more honest and real with you about the person that you're dating. Because even if he's able to present himself a particular way with you, when he's around you, these people are going to see him in a more consistent light because you need some place or source of information outside of him to see how others that are close to him talk about him. I want to warn you of this because this is another way that some men will deceive you, and I have to be real with you. Some men, when you start talking about family, will make it seem as if they don't speak to their family. For some men, that will be the truth. I'm not saying that they're all lying. But for some men, the reason that they're trying to avoid or tell you that they don't speak to their family or they don't communicate with their family is because they don't want you to meet their family. Not because they're scared that, oh my gosh, I'm just so nervous about you meeting my family. They don't want you to meet their family because they know deep down inside, you will get so much real information from the family that it will be impossible to play the trick on you anymore. We want to discuss the first fight. You're going to notice a lot of things. When you get a chance to have your first fight with a guy, it will be an eye-opener for you in a lot of different ways. Because, see, everyone is good at being happy, carefree, loving, giving, and all that good stuff when they're happy. When he meets you the first time off the dating app and you guys are sitting out on a date, you're dressed in your tightest pair of jeans, your dump truck looks amazing, your voluptuous yitties, your beautiful smile, and he's looking at you, he's like, damn girl, I got a bottle of Pinot Grigio for you at my place, me and you together forever. It's so easy for you to feel good, you to feel loved, the vibes to all be there. But the greatest part of any relationship, to me at least, and I want it to be for you as well, is the first big fight that you get to have with this guy. You want to know why this is so amazing? Because this is the thing. When guys that you're dating are mad or upset, it's an amazing chance for you to do some great observing here. If he, instead of treating you like a princess when he's happy with you, all of a sudden speaks to you drastically differently, calls you outside of your name, gets super disrespectful, starts punching walls or going crazy, or not at all presenting himself as the type of person that you once thought he was. You thought he was a gentleman, and now all of a sudden he's angry at you and he leaves you at the dinner by yourself. Or all of a sudden he's angry at you and he starts talking to and yelling at you at the restaurant, cursing you out. In that process, you'll start to realize, and you might think to yourself, well, Thompson, it's just him being angry. Everyone gets emotional. Everyone says things that they don't mean. Everyone does things that they don't mean. No, you're not going to take it that way. What I want you to take it as is an expression of how he really feels about you. Because when he's angry and upset like that, those are the rawest emotions. People tend to say things that are really hurtful to you when they're angry, and they end up being hurtful to you because people know your insecurities. They also know what they either dislike about you or how to attack you, but they just hold off on saying those things a lot of times because they're happy with you. So why would they say those things to hurt you or your feelings? But when they're angry at you, they'll express things to hurt your feelings and express things that they really may have been feeling all this time. Because now that they're angry, they don't feel it's necessary to hold those thoughts or opinions about you back. But like the friends and like the family, this is amazing for you. Because now you get to see how he really feels about you, how he really would like to treat you. Because being able to treat you like a princess when he's happy with you is great. But being able to treat you still good, even when he's angry or upset with you, is even more important. Because the reality of any relationship that you're ever going to be in, whether it's platonic or whether it's romantic, is you're going to have fights and disagreements. That's just the natural occurrence. When you have two different people from two different perspectives, two different walks of life, who come from two different families with two different moms or dads, it's not always going to be copacetic or chill or vibes. That's fine. But what's also important is understanding how to work through problems and how to work through disagreements. So that first big fight is your first big example of whether or not he's capable of working through disagreements with you in a healthy and mature way. Whether he's capable of expressing his anger in a way that doesn't blow up the entire relationship. Because what you'll realize for some guys is that they're good at being good to you when they're happy with you. But the moment they get upset with you, they're not very good at being good to you. Now, I'm not saying that when he gets angry, he's got to, pull your chair out. He's got to talk to you so amazing and sweet and tell you how much he loves you. I'm not saying that. But there's an understanding of how to be angry or upset or disagree in a way that doesn't blow the whole relationship up. All of this is information that you need to be gathering before you sleep with a man, because you don't want to sleep with a man when you only get to experience this side of the relationship. And then after you sleep with him, you experience this side of the relationship, and then you realize, oh boy, I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was the guy that I'm looking for and the guy that I wanted to be with. But after experiencing this part of our relationship, I'm now realizing he's actually not at all who I want. Let's go over to point number 5. So we talked about friends, we talked about fam, and we even talked about that first fight. And all of these things are building your level of information. So all of these things are hopefully getting you closer to what we can describe as the real him. I mean the version of him that is actually existing in reality. Not the version of him doesn't consist of anything real, because this version of him only is what he tells you about himself. He tells you about his life. He tells you about his past relationships, his family, and all that other stuff. And this doesn't really give you the right amount of context to make the decision that you need to be making. Because remember, the decision is not just, oh, I want to wait to sleep with him so that he likes me more and he'll commit himself to me. It's also, I want to wait to sleep with him so that I can ensure that by the time I actually do sleep with him, I get a better understanding of the actual person I'm sleeping with, not this fake version of him that is only based on things that he has told me, which could be curated specially for you to get something from you. And in this case, it's to be able to sleep with you or advance with you. Because if you were to have all this context of the friends and the family, and you were to have the context of the first fight and how he'll treat you, all of that information would actually let you know about the real him. Because if you're thinking to yourself, well, the fake him or the unknown version of him is just what he tells me about himself. And the real version of him is the version that I meet when I get context of him around his friends. I get context of asking questions to his family about who he is. And I get context of having that very first big fight with him and seeing how he treats me. If this is the real version of him, and this is a version of what he tells you, your observation as it relates to dating this man and understanding him has to take place where when you first start dating him and he's giving you all this information about himself and who he is and what his life is like, and you're gathering information of what he tells you, when you go through this experience of all of these things that are going to go into the real him, you want to be banking all of that information that you took in of what he told you on those dates, and you want to be seeing if they match up to this real version of him, so to speak. So let me give you an example of what I mean. If he tells you, let's just say in a more broader sense, he's like, yeah, I got this job. I work at a bank. I'm a banker and an accountant. And you're like, oh, wow, you're a really smart guy. I love dating, a banker. How'd you get into it? Yeah, my schedule's this and it's pretty cool. Yeah. But anyways, I like those pair of jeans that you got on. Your bum looks really good in those. Or what are those? Okay, I like that. You look really amazing. Right? And he changes the conversation. Then when you meet these friends and this family, right? And you're talking to them and you're saying, hey, yeah, so John was telling me that, he works at a bank and things like that, which I think is pretty cool. And they're like, he works at a what? He works at a bank. He said he's a banker. Yeah, he's a banker. He's a banker. Yeah. Bro, you didn't tell her that you sell drugs? You told her you're a banker. John, yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy, right? And these are the type of things that will become obvious to you or apparent to you over time when you start getting more of this context, that things that he told you versus things that are actually happening aren't aligning with themselves. One of the main things that guys will lie about is their job, especially if they don't anticipate that you're ever going to be able to verify those things. They'll lie about their job just as a way to get you hooked and make you feel like, oh, this is a guy I should be dating, or this is a guy I should take seriously. There's not many drug dealers or people who have no real job that are gonna just come out and say, yeah, I basically have no job or I have nothing going on.